In the United States, CPS makes upwards of $3 billion per day on trafficking and selling our children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud.
We need to stop CPS and abolish CPS.com is leading the way. Join us.
All right, everybody. I want to welcome everybody back to. First of all, I want to apologize for that. For once, we were going to be on time, and I don't know what took place there, but we got foobarred there, so that took place there. So I apologize about that. But I want to welcome you all to CPS Victims Hunting Justice after our short little break there that we just had. As usual, like, share, do those things for us if you would, please. We're getting back at it here after that break. We just had to take a minute and reestablish what we were doing here. So I want to thank everybody that is with us, that stayed with us during that little break. What is going on here in this world? Is that we have a major election coming up here, and I don't understand. I don't know if many of you even know what the ramification is of this election, but it's pretty severe. First of all, none of us want to wait another 2 to 4 years before we can get any sort of anything done. If these politicians that get added in don't care about CPS, if they don't know about CPS, if they don't. If it's not even on their agenda. So be sure that you guys watch for who is coming up, who's in your area, who's running, who wants to stop CPS, who wants to get involved with them. Find out who these people are and how they are sitting on the CPS, the CPS feelings and such. It's an important thing, guys, because I know that everybody has bad taste in their mouths about the elections, and they think that they're all rigged, which, yes, they have had some things happen in the past, but we got to stand up and we got to beat that as Americans, right? We can't let what the actions of some in the past have done to us. We can't let that prevail. That all being said, we need to just make sure that we get our heads in the game for this election. Trump, I don't mean to say his name because I don't want to get into it. Well, I guess we have to. I guess there's no way around politics of any of this. But that he had put in a provision right before his leaving of office. Right here, I was just reading about this, that says President Trump signs executive order to protect parents from CPS reform and foster care. All right, so people don't this was never even brought out in the news. President Donald Trump, this was on June 25th of 2020. President Donald Trump signed an executive order Wednesday to reform the child welfare system in the United States. The executive order includes historic protection for parents who are targeted to have their children removed by Child Protective Services, improving processes to prevent unnecessary removal and secure permanency for children. federal review for reasonable effort determinations and timeline requirements. So see, Trump was doing things right when he got into office, like he had said, but that kind of got pushed by the wayside, didn't it, with all that other stuff. So see, politicians are doing things, and big papas like Trump are too. So guys, see what your politicians are doing, see what they can do for you, talk to them about your story, tell them about your case, but make sure whoever you vote for has, one way or the other, has some sort of mindset to tackle the CPS thing. That being said, I see Herbert's back here with us. Herbert, how are you, buddy?
Good. How you doing?
I'm all right. Other than that little blunder, I mean, there we go. We had a almost being on time start, and then I don't know, the graces of God or something. I have no idea what took place there, but that happened. So
where's Rosalind?
I don't know. I don't see her here now, but it's me.
Well, I tell you what, I had a difficult time getting in. The way you sent the invite this time was a lot different than the previous time. If you could send her the invite like you normally would, she'll come in. She's waiting.
Well, the people are waiting too. So why don't you tell them what you've got for them about what you've learned this past weekend while we were away? I'll get Rosalind in here.
Oh, well, the only thing I learned while we were away is that children need regular medical visits and treatments for injuries. Not seeking, medical treatments when necessary is considered neglect. And neglect's not a good thing with the medical staff because they immediately will get CPS involved. So that's why it's important that if a child has a serious injury or illness, you should really seek medical care for that child.
Are you talking about like checkups and things like that they should be make sure?
I'm talking about I'm talking about like a child falls off the bicycle, has a pretty bad injury. You're gonna patch it up. It's good to patch it up, but you might want to go in and still get it checked out anyway by urgent care or something like that, just to make sure it's okay. So it goes on the record that you went out of your way to try to look out for that child.
So that's one of the things that CPS will come knock on your door, right? Because that's mandated. Not
immediately. No, they won't come immediately, but it will be recorded with the. Okay, if that child who hurt themselves ends up in school, and the teacher wants to know, well, what happened? Oh, I fell off my bicycle. Then another time, the child fell off a staircase. Then that could be like flags to the school. Something's going on. I would hope the school would contact the parents and say, hey, what's going on with your child? I would hope so. But if they don't and they want to just report it directly to CPS, they're within their means to do that because they're considered a reporting agency. I found that out. They're required to report stuff that they feel looks unusual.
So
it's a requirement for schools to do that.
Really? So this
Yes.
this was considered one of the problems then with us when we talk about CPS being in the schools now. So now CPS has their hands in the schools. So now it's even more. You always need to make sure that you're on your A game, right, with your kids. I mean, that's because
they're mandated. They're called mandated reporters. The school, right. Doctors, nurses, medical people, they're considered mandated reporters. Police officers, they're all mandated reporters.
Right, and they get if they don't go by the rules, and if something happens, they find out that they didn't report, they get some sort of a penalty for this, right? Like they get charged.
Yeah, they could be. No, I don't think it will be a crime they'll be charged with, but it can be looked upon. Right. I mean, they could wiggle out of it and say they didn't see anything, but at the same token, they know it's mandated. So it could fall under a misdemeanor on their part, but they don't want to take a chance. They want to report what they see.
Right.
There's neglect. There's two types of child abuse. There's neglect and abuse.
Right.
Okay. Neglect means that the child is lacking basic needs. Okay. Abuse, it means that when a child means that there's physical harm to a child. Abuse also can be a threat of physical harm. So you could threaten your child by, well, if you don't pick up your toys or your shoes or whatever, I'm going to do this to you or that to you. That is a threat of physical harm. and that's a flag.
Okay. All right.
And that
So
could be reported to a child feeling bad about what they did at home. They go to school the next day, or they go to their friend's house, and the parents next door picks up. Gee, there's something wrong with little Johnny. Why is he acting this way?
right.
So I'm only spelling out a few things I've observed
Right.
about how
So
it's
is there,
off the radar.
I don't have the answer to this, but I don't know if you do either. Um, but is there a number of, like, if mandated reporters call up on someone, is there a number of reports that
Yes.
finally
Yeah.
that
No. Okay.
okay?
You're asking for statistics, or are you asking for a phone number?
No, I don't want a phone number at all. But what I'm asking you is if how many
You're
reports by
asking
man?
for you're asking for statistics.
Yeah. Do you have any of those?
I do not know.
Okay. I mean, I'm just wondering if there's so many reports, if so many people get so many calls in on them, if, like 5 of them gets them a phone call or something along those lines. I don't know that either. We'll have to look into that, see what we can come up with for that. I mean, obviously 1's too many, but 5's enough that if you're on their radar, they should be coming. But I mean, they must have a sweet spot number that they're like, okay, these people are, well, I don't even know if that's true or not because mine was one phone call by, uh, you know, by a complete stranger, and I don't
All
know.
you need is one phone call.
Right.
But with the one phone call, there may be numerous follow-ups with CPS because now you're in the system. Now
Right.
you're on their radar.
Yep. And we all know once you're on their radar, it becomes next to impossible to get them off. All right. We got
That's where you
Roz
come in.
back here. Yes, that is where I come in. But hey, Herbert, we got Roz with us. We got Mandy with us. Let's see. We'll bring in Roz first. Roz, how are we, dear?
Hey,
Hey, sorry about that little hiccup. They threw us off the air. Someone threw us off the air. It wasn't me, but we're here now, and that's all that matters. But Roz, your role in all of this, in this whole world of CPS. I mean, what do you consider yourself in this role of in the fight against CPS? Like, what do you when you want to tell people what you do or how you do it? What is it that you consider that you are, or are you? You know what I mean? Like, where are you with this? Like, what is your meat and potatoes for this thing, this fight?
I call myself a family advocate,
Okay.
not a parents advocate, a family advocate.
Okay. What's the difference between a family and the parents?
I work basically with the parents, but I have no problem working with older children that
Okay.
can get to me.
Yeah.
I
Oh.
see. Is it
Huh.
is that
You know,
role something?
teenagers
What's that, Roz?
teenagers have enough social media that I've had teenagers in foster care find me.
Really? Do you, that's a is that becoming a common thing that these kids when they're turning 18 are coming out and trying to find their parents?
I have had several return.
How I mean, is it? I mean, obviously because we have social media now, it's becoming a thing, and it's not that hard as long as the child remembers their name. I mean, they're going to be able to find you, right? Like that's pretty much the way it's
Right.
going to be.
I advise parents who have gone through TPR. I have parents call me past TPR that they want to do something, and really at that point, there's not much to do. So I advise them to stay up on social media, whatever the newest thing that the kids are doing. Okay. I mean, when I started this, it was MySpace. Okay.
Right.
Um,
That's dial-up days, Ross. That's still when you had
and I tell them stay up on it. Right now, I tell them make sure they're on Snapchat because Snapchat seems to be the thing. I think there's something called Discord too
Oh yeah,
that
Discord, those ones, yeah.
that the kids use. Get on them under the name your children would know you as, because you could remarry, especially us women. Remarry, change our names. Don't do it on
Right.
social media. Stay the name that the kids know you by. If you have a nickname that the kids know that, like I have a brother that we call Bud. Um, get on that. Make sure
Okay.
that name's on there so the kids can find you. Where's
Right.
the first
It's
place you start looking for your old classmates? Facebook.
right. Right. I mean, and who knows what's going to come now. I'm going to actually look that up and see what I know that there's a couple of websites out there that are dedicated. I know that we do it on abolishcps.com, but I know that there's some other websites that are out there that are just for kids finding, their families if they were put into the system. And I mean, what does that say to you really about this whole mess that we're in? Like, what does that say to you that kids are waiting for the point that they can find their parents and come back? I mean, that says that there's something wrong with our system, right? Like these parents are
Yeah,
aching.
yeah. Um, I've had kids just knock on their parents' door and show up.
Wow, I would have shocked
Uh,
that. You know?
I know of a family of 6 children. Um, one of them was killed in a car accident. The remaining 4 boys have all made contact with their their original parents. The girl has been fed false memories.
Oh,
So that's, she's not ever going to speak to them.
well,
But the boys have all come back. Matter of fact, one of the boys is having trouble with his adoptive mom having guardianship over him and not allowing him when he's capable of living on his own. She controls all of his money. She, it's pretty bad.
well,
So I've been trying to help him get out from under her totally.
that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about with you about this. That's got to be a pretty common thing for these kids that are coming out of foster care because they're not given these life lessons and all of these things that they should have been given. Like if you were in with your regular family, things that would have been just second nature to teach you, like teaching your kid bank skills and all of these life lessons that I bet you that these foster kids are a lot of times neglected of getting because they're not these people's real kids, so they don't concern themselves as much with these situations as they would if
Well,
it's their
kids
own.
that get that in that last case, kids were actually adopted out, um, and they came back. Uh, when they age out of foster care, they do tend to be lost unless they are given life skills. They do have them here where they put the kids through classes, but still, with no family to back them, they um, they can lose their way. Also, I know here in Ohio, you can stay in foster care till you graduate college.
Oh, wow.
But you have to stay in foster care in order for them to give you the state funded college.
Wow. That's crazy.
But most kids, well, it's very limited. You have to stay with the state or with the county here, but they'll pay for your college if you want to go, through your bachelor's degree.
Right.
So, um, but your caseworker's just going to call you once a month. How you doing?
Right. Right.
You're not under the same kind of supervision
Right.
that you are with when you're under 18.
Right. Well, I
But
know that
kids,
this couple here that we have backstage with us that's going to be joining us on the regular now, Mandy and Martin. They're definitely those people. I mean, they're still in the fight themselves. They're with me on that. Let's bring them out here. I don't know if they're on the picture or not. Mandy, Martin, you guys there? It says that they're here.
just so you know, Darren, as
Yes.
you know, I am in the emergency room
Oh, yes.
and I
Well, thank
will be admitted for the night.
Oh, no.
I only have 28% on my phone.
Oh, all right. So if you got to get out of here,
If
you
I
go.
drop off, that's what happened. That's all.
Well, now you'll have me worried because I'm going to be looking to see what 28% would be because I don't want you to drop off while you're in the emergency room and then we think something else happened to you. At least,
Oh no,
you
I'll
know.
be fine. Don't worry about it. They're going to
All right.
admit me, just so they can give me overnight antibiotics.
Oh, all right. Okay. Good, 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 good. Well, thanks for putting yourself out there, even then being in the emergency room. I don't know where Mandy and Martin are here. They're here, but this says that they're not talking to us. So, but that's the other thing is so how do we prepare our children and we prepare the families to be ready for CPS when they're coming? Like, what's one of the things? Because there's the other thing is what we don't talk about is our kids becoming victims, but our kids don't know what to do either. They get ripped from our house, they get dropped off at this foster home. That's it. We don't get the opportunity to talk to them. If we didn't talk to them prior, they don't even know what the hell is going on. What can we do to let these kids know? I mean, short of obviously us having that conversation, which I think is the stupid. I'm sorry I'm even asking the question because we know what the answer is. How do we go about having this conversation with your 5-year-old that hey, one day CPS might come and get you. I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk to you or not, but this is going to happen to you. Have you thought about those things?
Yeah, and it's very hard because you're going to scare the kids so badly. What you
Right?
teach them is before they're taken, you teach them the reverse Miranda.
Yeah.
I have the right to remain silent. Please notify my parents immediately. You've already taught them not to talk to strangers,
Right. So we hope.
okay? You already have taught them by the time they're 5, I hope, good touch, bad touch,
Right.
and to tell if somebody touches. Even if they say that they're going to hurt mommy and daddy, they're not going. We can take care of ourselves. You tell. Um,
Right.
uh, you know, you're not supposed to talk to strangers. And the thing is, if they take the kids, they usually take them from their home. It's rare that they pick them up at school without any kind of children's services contact first. So once children's services is there, you can sit down and talk to your kids at that point. I would not do more than the reverse Miranda prior to their getting any interference. Now, once they get older, yeah, you can use it as a fear of God.
Right.
I mean, I tapped my son with my knee when he was 13 years old, and he threw himself into the wall and said, I'm calling children's services." And I said, "Oh, you're going to call the police on me first, huh?" Well, let me tell you how it is. The emergency room is across the street. It literally was. I lived across the street from an emergency room at the time. I said, "So there's probably a couple cops sitting over there. It'll take them at least 20 minutes to get across the street because I live in a big city. And I can guarantee you I'll do whatever it is you're claiming I did before they get here. The number's 911. Be my guest." And, he decided it wasn't a good thing to call. Once they get older, you can put the quote unquote fear of God or tough love or whatever. Once they get
Right.
a little older, okay. The biggest problem I find, however, is with disabled children, whether that be autism, um, uh, severe ADHD, ADD, where there is behavior problems in school.
Okay.
Um, Schools like to turn you in.
Yeah. Big time.
And I will tell you this too about one case from my past. Right after Sandy Hook, um, a mother took her daughter in for having a meltdown and needed to be have some stronger sedatives.
Yeah.
Um, and they called in children's services, basically because the mother didn't use daily drugs, which really doesn't help autism. and the
Right.
girl didn't have meltdowns, they're ending up suing. I haven't heard, and that was in Connecticut. Anybody who had any kind of meltdown out there, Autism Man was a dirty word in Connecticut after that.
Right.
And it's taken a while for them to do the swing back. So anytime you have a child also with a rare disease, watch out the hospitals. And teach your children not to use certain words, because nowadays they will get you in trouble. Don't ever tell your kid, I'm going to beat you, when you're just talking about smacking their behind, okay? I know a little boy whose children's services came knocking on his door because they asked at school, did his daddy beat you? And he said yes. He was talking about a board game.
Right. Absolutely.
So you have to teach kids to be specific, and say what they mean, because
But
a
how
lot
many
of people
times
don't
does
ask the
CPS
follow-up questions.
Right. How many times does CPS actually take those things like you just said, and they don't get the follow up question, and they get it wrong, and immediately they say, "Oh, you said my dad beat them." They don't even let the kid speak anymore. It's off to the races, and they take the kid. Like that's where the unfortunate part is here. Like
Most of that kindergarten, was it kindergarten or first grade? Most of that class had children's services at their door because the school had asked questions and not asked them properly.
Wow, it's just
Okay, watch your schools.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
these teachers are turning in parents for stupid stuff. Between
Yep.
the medical profession and the teaching profession, we get more false claims.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that they just don't, their
Well,
licenses are on the line, yes,
right. Their
but
their their responsibility in these matters. It's a very scary thing, and I don't blame them for that. But on the same hand, again, this is where we go back to that discrepancies in words. Like the teacher, has to do this because I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that one of the nurses that was on here at one point in time, or the doctors, had said that if they don't report properly, they could be up for a misdemeanor charge, or if they falsely report, that they can be charged. So they're really like in this little stuck.
well, what it is they have to use some common sense. A
Thank
kid
you.
comes in with a broken arm
Thank
and
you.
he has road rash on his leg, and he says he fell off his bike. Guess what?
Right.
He fell off his bike.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now you have the same child coming in with all kinds of injuries. Then you have something to maybe worry about because of the pattern. But
Right.
teachers going overboard. The child comes to school, kindergartner comes to school with what looks like fingerprint bruises on his upper arm. Doesn't bother asking any questions, just call CPS. Well, it just so happens that the little guy started to run out in front of a car and dad grabbed him.
Right.
So, yeah, he has fingerprint bruises on his upper arm and he's alive.
Right. And that's a big part too.
They have to listen. They have to follow through. I had one little kid who developed a problem with his pancreas.
Oh no.
And one of the ways that this happens is a blow to the stomach.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the kid had no sign on the outside of his body that there was a blow to his stomach,
Right.
but they ended up in children's services because they just had to have had, and that was a hospital social worker. who went through that one. I was just thinking of another one where the kids, shaken baby syndrome.
Ooh.
They like to show that one,
Oh
but
my, well, rightfully so, though. Rightfully so. You can't shake your baby.
I want to know. Okay, take a teddy bear and shake it without it falling out of your hands. You're going to squeeze pretty hard,
I mean, that would hurt a
right?
little. Right.
If you're going to
That's what
hold the baby hard enough to shake it to do damage, you're going to leave finger bruises.
Right. You're going to have some sort of marks on it. Correct.
Right, right. You can't do it otherwise. You're going to drop it.
Yeah, you
You
can't. You
know.
can't do that at all. No, absolutely not. Hey, Mandy, we got you here live with us. How are you?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
We can hear you
Sure
good. Yes.
can.
Andy, Roz,
Great.
Mandy.
Roz, hi. I've
Hi.
heard a lot about you. Can you hear me?
Well,
Yep,
yeah,
we
I
can
can
hear
hear you. Don't know how much of it you need to believe. Uh,
you. It's mostly good, Roz. Mostly good.
I get it. I get it.
So we were just
depends on who
talking
you
about.
talk to.
Yeah,
You're
right.
right.
Besides the tracks you're on, right? We were just talking about what can be done for preventative maintenance for kids. Like what do you? The question is how do you prepare your child for the fact that one day CPS may come in and take them away, and what do you do to kind of get them on track to know? Because like they come in, they take your kid, they're gone. They don't never again to be seen or heard. So like we were talking about, there's Facebook, like Roz was saying, she put herself out on the MySpace, back then, and all of that's not she put herself out there, but meaning like she had shown how long ago it was when she was dealing with this stuff. But
Mhm.
like, what do you do? Like, what do you tell your kids? How do you do this? And then because like Roz was saying, that the mandated reporting is getting kind of out of control, especially in the school
Oh,
system. And what we were just talking about there was the shaking baby syndrome. That's what we were talking about, like with that. I think what she was just about ready to get at was, well, I'll let you finish that, Roz. There's the marks that will leave for the shaken baby syndrome is what you're getting at.
Right. You can't hold a child strong enough to not drop them, but shake them enough to do damage.
Right, I see.
Um, I can't figure out how. And I've tried it with baby dolls. I've tried it with, uh, teddy bears. I've tried it with anything that's not a baby. And I can't, you have to hold on tight enough.
Right. Oh,
We're
your
not
poor.
talking about throwing a child, unfortunately, some do, against a wall or something.
Right.
If you're hanging on to the child, I mean, I had a dad years ago who actually did time for shaken baby because his lawyer was a piece of crap. Um, and what caused the shaken was a seizure because he was given a live virus when he wasn't old enough to have it
oh
in the form
man.
of a vaccine.
Oh wow. So now these
Um,
people get in trouble.
That's a hard
it,
one. That's a hard one. Shaken baby is, I mean, babies are so, their little brains are still maturating. So I don't know how hard they have to be shaken for it to affect them. Or how hard
well,
we have
part
to
of
hold.
it is too that there's other things that cause those things. A reaction to a vaccine can cause a brain.
Absolutely. As soon as you said
So,
that, Roz,
but
exactly.
nobody checks that stuff. If there's
Right.
Right.
no marks on the outside of the baby, let's look at other stuff. My own great granddaughter, who was just born a month ago, was born with a broken clavicle. She got stuck.
Sure.
And first
All
thing
the
out
time.
of my mouth, and my grandson has had me doing this his entire life. First thing out of my mouth is make sure you have good medical records.
Right.
Because some idiot comes along, your regular doctor isn't in, and the associate looks, and that baby's got a broken clavicle, and they're going to turn you in.
Yeah, you dropped the baby. You did something.
Yeah.
What a sad world, because things happen to children and to babies all the time, especially during childbirth, especially, the things that people are having to deal with, the traumatic things that they're going through are making us so that we're like we're so traumatized that we're walking around like this. Roz,
Mhm.
I never would have thought of that. Most people don't think of that because we didn't come from a time when when that was even looked at as anything other than natural, as anything
Right.
other than what naturally. So it's,
Mhm.
the things that the trauma that obviously you've seen and have experienced and witnessed and been through is such that you're like, get records. It does something to you internally, and that's so sad. I mean, that's just, that's something that happened when the baby came out, and we should just know
Right.
that, you know?
Well,
And let's
parents,
give each other some grace.
yes. I have had parents who have called me after they've gotten their kids back and are afraid to take their children to the emergency room.
Oh, I imagine.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, of course.
Mhm.
Well,
I
that's the
can't,
other thing.
go
What
ahead,
do you
Jared.
right? How do you live once if you're fortunate enough to get your kid back? That way of life. I mean, honestly, is it even? You love your kid, and I'm not saying this the wrong way, but honestly, is it even worth it? Because how are you going to live the rest of your life with that child? At least until they're of age, where you're going to be like, like you said, you probably only want to go like as much as you want to be with your kid. Number one, you're never going to let them leave more than 3 inches from your side.
Yeah,
They're not.
exactly.
Like you're never going to bring
That's
it.
a very valid,
Right.
valid question and concern, because that's what happens. What do people do after? And the trauma, like the therapy you'd have to go to. When you asked me when I first came on, you said, Mandy, how do you prepare your child? How do you prepare your child, in the future when they're faced with maybe getting CPS called on them? And my intuitive reaction was, you leave the country.
Right.
That doesn't work.
Right. But you,
Doesn't I don't know. I haven't tried it, but I
Where are you
would.
going to go? It's worse in most countries.
I mean, it's
Canada
bad.
is really bad.
Yeah, I've heard
Um,
that.
I mean, if you're going to go, my thing is go off grid.
Oh yeah,
Just stay
definitely.
here so you have the freedoms of that, but go off grid.
Right.
Homeschool. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, CPS hates homeschoolers.
Yes, they do. Yeah, they do.
Nuts. There's so many things that. Roz,
But the thing
I would
is,
love to pick your brain, and I guess
when
that's
we were talking about preparing the kids before you came on, have you heard of the reverse Miranda?
Oh yeah, you're gonna like this one, Mandy.
reverse Miranda.
Yes.
Well, I don't. I heard, Connie Regally did something about Miranda uh, at something recently. I don't know. Please enlighten me.
Um, you would
Yes. Wait a
give
minute.
your
Is
child
it? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
you give your child a card that he gives to children's services, and you should teach them when they get older to say it themselves. I have the right to remain silent. Please contact my parents immediately. And if you put
Yes.
it on an index card with the parents' numbers, you know, your child's being taught not to talk to strangers. Don't talk to
Absolutely.
strangers. I
That's a
just
tough
love it
one.
when caseworkers go, the child won't talk to me. And I look at him and I go, well, duh, stranger danger? That child doesn't, but I'm safe. You're a stranger. Okay?
And not, that's right. And kids are so intuitive. That's a great point. I don't think that kids would naturally talk to a social worker because of the intent, and kids are
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, kids know. And until
Oh,
until they're pushed to a situation where they don't, right? Until they're uncomfortable,
Right.
made to be.
Okay, let me chime in on that real quick. Kids are taught not to talk to strangers. That's correct. When a child is experiencing abuse at home and they don't realize they're being abused because mommy and daddy are fighting and cursing at each other, and the child goes to school the next day, and the teacher picks up there's something wrong with this child today, and the teacher says, well, what's wrong? Nothing. No, there's something wrong. You're not acting the same like you did yesterday. Nothing.
A teacher's not a stranger.
No, not this teacher. The teacher's trying to find out what's wrong with the child. The child has been mentally abused the night before by his parents. So the teacher is trying to find out what's going on because the child trusts the teacher. Then once the child tells the teacher about the fighting and the cursing and everything going on with the parents, they're mandated to report that. It's a mandate. Doctors, medical staff.
I have not ever
education.
heard of a mandate for arguing. Let's learn to use the proper term.
No, we're not talking about a mandate for arguing. We're talking about a mandate that education has to report that.
Exactly. But Herbert,
Now,
what I'm saying
once they
is
report
you
that,
did not say anybody put hands on each other. Okay?
Doesn't make a difference.
Yelling and
Doesn't have to be
screaming.
hands-on. It's called mental abuse.
Here's your example.
They didn't touch the kid. They didn't touch the
You
kid.
better know I'm a survivor of domestic violence.
We're talking. Listen.
I understand that that's the case, but I do not see that as a mandated reported item. I just don't.
They will do that. The
Oh,
teacher,
they'll
the
do
principal. Yes. So let's talk about what they will do, not what you and I see as reportable or not. They will report that. Now, guess what you did? Now you made yourself a target for CPS.
Yeah, you did.
That's my point.
Yeah, you did.
My whole point is to avoid making yourself a target for CPS. So if you're going to argue and fight and fuss, don't do it in front of the children.
Send the kids to grandma's.
That's true.
Better yet, go outside.
That.
Go outside in the car and argue inside the car in the garage, but don't do it in front of the children because they take it as it's their fault. They think it's their fault. Children are very sensitive that way, and parents don't realize that. And now, once you become a target, oh boy, all you need is that knock at the door saying, hey, we got this information. We're just checking to see if everything's okay. They're always going to be checking out.
And the other thing is, after a few times they've been called, their thing is where there's smoke, there's fire.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's their game.
We've had to come out because of this and this and this, all different things. But there's something definitely not right here. So we're going to take the kids and do a complete total investigation. We're going to crawl in your attic and your basement, and we're figuratively speaking under your car. They're going to do everything. And the whole thing is, I wish parents would learn to ask caseworkers for their fishing license.
For their what? What did you say? You wish parents would ask
for their fishing license.
Okay. That's a great one. That's so true. Or, I wish parents would know or would ask, do I have rights? That was a funny joke, Ross. But I mean, it is it's sad because these kids or these parents and these kids are completely oblivious, and the kids who are the social workers, because all of us are kids who are going into this, these kids are coming in and I think they go afraid because there's a lot of pressure. They're not necessarily. I'm coming at it from all points of view because that's how I'm choosing to do things today, because I don't want to sit here and blame, although I mean I do, but I'll say that they come in afraid, and so I think that it's It's acting on ignorance and arrogance. They're given a lot of power, and they don't necessarily know how to decipher between what is and what is not abuse or a sketchy situation. Because if we're all real here, um, I mean, my parents fought in front of me. My parents, not like I mean, not they fought with fists, but I heard them argue, and therefore I am able to be around arguments. I mean, it makes us human. It makes us be able to handle other people. We don't want to be so sheltered that we don't know how to deal with things. I think
Mm-hmm.
that it's just such a very touchy situation, and social workers, because they're ignorant and arrogant because they have so much power yet they don't know enough, for the most part, come in and they overcompensate. They think, oh my gosh, this could be this, so I'm going to go ahead and take your kids, even if I have to exaggerate the truth, even if I have
Mm-hmm.
to, give it the worst case scenario. And so
Um, yeah, they're given too much power with too little education. You have
Well,
a 23-year-old never changed a diaper telling you how to handle your 10-year-old son with ADHD.
right.
exactly. And if he didn't have ADHD then, he does after the social worker gets him.
After the breakup and everything else that they're going to give them.
What's that?
I said after they
Okay,
drug
guys,
him.
I
Yeah.
am
Well,
almost out of juice. I'm going
all
to
right,
hang up
okay,
so I
well,
can save it so I can call home and have them bring me a charger.
There you go.
all right, Roz. Well, thank you for coming in tonight.
See,
Nice to meet you.
this is what I
I look
got.
forward.
See you tomorrow,
Bye,
Roz.
Roz. So, Darren, on that note, if you want to bring in Martin, Martin
Yeah,
is
there's
finally
Martin.
he's
I
here now
understand.
too. We're on his phone, but you want to
Uh,
come in?
there's
And hey,
Martin.
Herbert,
You know, I was just
Do
thinking. I was
Jim.
just thinking. Is it that they have a god complex, or is it that they're just freaking lazy and they figure the fastest way to get through this is just TPR to you and just move along, grab another kid?
I think it may be all of the above. When you're given, well, having worked in behavioral health, there is something to be said for having a big, huge caseload and having too many people that you're juggling about, too many cases, and it's just a lot of work. Herbert's seen this, and so they're so busy, and it's like, and you better err on the side of caution. And that's, I think, the big problem is that they err on the side of caution, exaggerate the truth, make things up if they have to, take hearsay as fact, and then then you're left with parents who are scared to death and just like they'll agree to anything because they think they're going to jail. But that's a whole other topic. Yes, I think I say ignorance and arrogance because that's something that I came to the conclusion of. I think
Oh, I
not
agree. I agree
not totally on.
100%. But I think it's all the way around. I think it's the fact that they've got the God complex. They can do whatever they want to do. These kids that are coming in to be caseworkers are growing up with no morals, no values. They don't have any work ethic. All of them are probably trying to get somewhere else. I mean, I would love to hear from caseworkers. We ask this question all the time for caseworkers to come on the show, yet we never seem to get any. And I don't understand that, but neither here nor there, because you'd think that if they were who they say they are, and that they are out for the greater good of the kids, that they'd come on the show and clear their names. But yeah, we never get that.
What
Um,
I've come to learn is that a lot of caseworkers are, if they come in with child welfare, they're young enough to where they stay on long enough to see the things that happen in the system, and it eats away at their integrity and their moral
right.
values, or they don't have children, they don't really, they just haven't lived enough life to know what's really going on, and that's not their fault. That is we have a system that is broken. We have a system that needs repair or needs wiping out and starting over.
Right,
But
because you figure this, okay, caseworker 15, 20 years ago, Herbert, right? There,
Yes.
your wife, the caseworker that's 20 years ago, already has a family. you know, like people were having children at 19 and 20 years old. So when they were coming into the caseworker industry, they did have kids, they did have their own families, and maybe this was part of the role. This is why you didn't see as much of this happening either, because it was young mothers coming in and doing this. So they weren't going to just come in and take people's children. You know, nowadays you have people being professional. They want to wait till they're 35 and 40. You know, 40 is the new 20. You know, babies, you know, to have babies and stuff. But Herbert, how old was everybody when you were growing up? When did everybody have their first baby?
Oh my. I would say between late teens and early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, don't forget that times were different as far as regulations. It was a lot more difficult to take a child before 2000 than it is now. It was a lot more difficult. Much more strenuous.
The taking of the child didn't really start taking place until I think the 90s, the late 80s and 90s.
The late 90s in 2000.
The war on
started.
drugs.
No, not the late 90s. I said the late 1980s and early 90s.
Okay, yeah, okay. But it was much more difficult
the war on
to take
drugs infringing the rights of the American family. That's what the war on drugs is all about.
Right, and so now
that's where it begins. It's the war on drugs. Ronald Reagan opened up the house to the kids telling you that your parents are doing drugs, to the parents going to the schools reporting about their parents, and it's all a wash. That's from Ronald Reagan, the Family Act. That's also when Amelia Gonzalez got taken to his house, and it's just that's where it is. That 5-year period. That's it.
That's it. It's the Family Act, the one that Clinton put in place. And so with that, I think that the social work, there's been way heavy turnover. So women, social workers are in the office that people get in there and they see what's happening now. And they're like, I didn't sign up for this. And they leave. So I don't know many people who had one social worker the entire time that they were in a case with this. So there's just a lot of turnover. People they can't stomach doing the work that they're asked to do, being incentivized by money.
Well, is it that, or they just don't want to work that hard? Like that's the other thing. Like, come on, what's a work week to everybody now? 35 hours?
I'm sure that plays a part, but there are some really good social workers in the world. People come into this because they come in because they feel from their heart they want to do it. They want to.
They leave 3 months later because they realize that that's not what happens here.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
Finding retired caseworkers like finding a retired CIA person. You don't find either one of them. Like
that's true. They're all whistleblowers, right?
Right. So, that's just it. Martin, what's your thoughts on all this? I'm going to drag you right in here by the boots, Martin. What do you think about all this nonsense?
My thoughts are... I was about to fall asleep. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm so tired. Social workers, they are certainly not overworked. As far as their payload and what they're assigned, I've yet to ever see a social worker that was just exhausted from such a hard day at work, or or they have so much paperwork to do that they just can't handle it, and somebody's going to get neglected if they don't finish writing a big long report that they have to do. They manage to they've got everything cookie cuttered out for them to it's just when people say that they have they're overworked and that's baloney. They're not overworked. They just they care about whatever they care about.
Okay, what state are you in?
Florida.
Okay, that's Florida. We got 49 other states, and some of those other states may say different.
About them in general.
He started out in New York and in New Jersey.
I'm talking about New York, New Jersey. I'm talking about Arizona. They're over.
What's
I agree with you.
And they're still looking for employees.
What's the standard for a caseworker? What is overwork? in their guidelines. These are something we got to look up. What is an overworked caseworker? How many cases? One,
Well, I
two?
think that they come on. I think that when they're employed, they come on.
I'm just
Herbert,
saying,
I agree with you. I think that
it's
people
not
take.
overworked that the reason that they're doing a bad job. They're doing a bad job because they're doing a bad job. Not
Correct.
because of the
100%. If
Yeah,
you're
I
overworked,
think
that means that you buckle down, you grab a hold of your britches, you get in there, you do your shit, you go home. Right?
they
Herbert,
do
if you're overworked as a
bad
cop, you
job
don't sit there bitch and moan and complain. You go out on the beat, you have to up the ante and do what you got to do, right? That's it.
Yeah.
They need to do the same
That's
thing.
correct.
Right.
But
And
They're trying to use.
yes,
They're trying to make
but
it.
what's happening is a lot of social workers are leaving the job, just like a lot of police officers are leaving the job. Retirements, some of them are just quitting. That's going on. So police department, if you check the statistics of police departments for police officers, they don't have enough.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with that. I mean, I do. I'm gonna take the side of
They don't
social
have enough. They don't have
Only
enough
because-
social. They don't have enough. They don't have enough. Yeah, I'm saying they don't have enough social workers that they should be doing their job. Being overwhelmed because there's not enough help there, and police officers are being overwhelmed
I agree.
because there's just not enough other police officers backing each other up.
their asses.
Well, I agree
They
with
don't
you,
do
Herbert.
shit.
I mean, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate only
They're
because.
never there when you need them, only when you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly
No, we've
what
had
it is.
some.
Do you notice when you get these reports about another child dies, yada yada yada, they have been called on 30, 40 freaking times. They never responded to these calls. Our situations, we have a combined amount of phone calls of this. 2, one for you, one for me. Neither one of us have our kids. So how the hell does someone that gets called on 30 or 40 times, their kid's dead? Like what's going on there? Where's the shortcomings?
Right there lies the problem. It's because they do what they want, how they want. It's, and I understand that they're humans and somebody gave them the ability to be a human at their job, but this isn't really when it comes to the livelihood of somebody's family, how in the world hell can a court or anybody mandate this person over here to be in control of the choices of your life or my life?
That's the hard part.
I mean.
And then when they don't look into that, because I think that the problem, the error or the laziness comes in a little bit of a higher level. I wouldn't say that it's all the social worker, although I have some animosity towards social workers only because they've trashed
some of
me. they've slandered my name. But I think that that's because of fear, because they're given so much responsibility, and that's a lot on someone, and they're financially incentivized to do so. And then the people upstairs or a little bit higher on the ladder should be responsible for actually finding out if false allegations are indeed fact, or if they just go off of the facts that they're handed. I was told, I knew nothing about any of this stuff, and I was told by my CPI, by the CPI that I came into contact with, that DCF or CPS is more powerful than the courts, and they will do anything that they want, and whatever they say goes. And I had no idea what this guy was talking about. I was just kind of like, okay, well, I've never had, it was just kind of, I was very, very ignorant. I was never told about rights or anything like that. So I think that they're directed to maybe use fear and
let's not get responsibility and power mixed up. You give someone responsibility, that means they go out, they're doing a good job, they're taking control of the situation, they're acting appropriately, they're doing everything right. That's different than having
right. That's why I say arrogant and the two are lethal. Arrogance and ignorance, because they are ignorant. They enter into a situation that they have no idea what's going on. They say that they do. They go in and make a claim, a factual claim on paper, and that's the ignorance, and that's the arrogance stepping in with the ignorance, and that is a lethal combination.
Hey guys, Vinny's over here. He's typing away about some AI that's involved with the means ombudsman program and all of this stuff. I'm thinking that maybe we want to get Vinny in on this tomorrow to
wow, yeah.
He's typing this much. There must be a lot to talk about. So Vinny, I'm going to send you guys a link. Let's get you guys on here for tomorrow's show because this is way more than I can't even read this much that you're putting up here, buddy.
Wow, that's interesting. I'll go back and read it. I haven't seen any of it, but that's very interesting.
But we're
but
at
how
our point.
ironic is that?
Yeah, we got a lot there. That's a lot of stuff there for reading. So Mandy, if you would be the responsible one and do that,
yeah,
get us up here, that would be cool. But we're wrapped. We're over, Herbert, by 4 minutes. Not a bad first night back, right?
Herbert, it's nice to see you. We talked one night on the phone.
Yes, we did. I remember that. Yes.
I don't know, Mandy and Martin, I don't know if you guys know this, but Herbert, why don't you lead us out of the last words?
Well, last words are, it's a good question. Try to avoid being a victim of CPS. Try to avoid becoming a target for CPS, and you'll never have to deal with them. Also, if CPS does come to your door, police come to your door, they should have a warrant. Don't just let them in. They should have due cause for why they're coming in. And look at the warrant. Make sure it's signed by a judge. Not just a piece of paper.
I mean, that's so valid. That is a piece of advice that is, it could have saved my life if I had had it.
That's the facts. Andy, Martin, last words?
Yeah, I mean, I got one thing to say. You know, most people, they should follow their heart when they think that something is right or wrong. If you know, then chances are it is right or wrong. You know, you don't need somebody else that is, because they have a little badge that says their name on it or something to tell you right or wrong. I mean, if you know, then chances are you're correct. And you know, maybe we should all have stood up for ourselves a little better. At least I'm speaking for myself.
Right. I totally agree with that. I'll go ahead and piggyback on him, Darren, and just say that if you do have, if you find yourself in a situation like this, and there are throughout your whole life, if you stay true to your integrity, to yourself, and go with, if someone's telling you that something about your life is wrong, but you feel in your heart that it's right, especially as a parent and as a spouse, please go with your heart and your gut and your soul, because that is where God lives. That is where the truth lies. And you know, please don't compromise your integrities or your integrity or your morals, because it'll all fall apart. Just be honest, be true, be true to yourself, and that's where success lives.
That's it. You got it. All right. I'm going to say this, guys. I'm going to say good show coming back. A lot of good stuff being talked about tonight. A little bit different than normal, but this is going to be the new norm, and I'm kind of happy with it. So, you know what? Let's come back tomorrow night for Vinny's takeoff on what's going on the CPS Punisher. I'm out of here. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah. He was gone. We were gone.
Crazy, baby, chill. Don't medicate, just meditate. You waking up now, well, baby, you hella late. Educate, look at what's going on, let it resonate, accelerate. Find your inner hunger like you never ate. Agenda is to push the hate, separate and segregate. Don't celebrate quite yet, the storm is coming, Q, for heaven's sake. Violence that they demonstrate, instigate and penetrate. The values of our country and our God is what they desecrate. My fighters ain't no featherweight, pulling out the seams of the fabric that they fabricate. They feed us lies, manipulate, intimidate through fear and force, forcing us to sit and wait till we come together, congregate, and then we liberate. Praying that you give me strength to find some love amongst the hate. Marching on these streets of blood till I see the golden gates. Troubadour and troubled souls, one of God's servants. Blades out, cut the grass till we see the serpents.
One day I hope you see the truth. This puppet show stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get
just digest it. Suspected something's going on, but chose to just neglect it. Deflected by some breaking news, oh, we just accept it. Expected just to fall in line and follow their perspective. Don't question their objective, but I got a lot of questions. How these kids molested, but nobody's been arrested. Read it in the testament, these children are protected. So I'm fighting all these terrorists, both foreign and domestic. Refuse to be directed, blind not a sheep. Only kneel to my God, so I'm dying on my feet. Silence when we speak, but there's violence in the street. I've been rolling with the punches, I can't take it on the cheap. Drink from a glass half full, I'm optimistic. People are sadistic, so vicious and malicious. Praying for assistance to overcome opposition, or I'm gonna start resisting and then I'll pray for forgiveness.
One day I hope you see the truth. This puppet show stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now. We need you now. We need you now. We need you now. One day, one day, one day, I hope you see the truth. This puppet show stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.
And I am here to share an important message with you. Remember, every minute in the USA, a child is taken by CPS. Watch CPS Victims Hunting Justice every Monday through Friday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time to learn about the destruction of families. Join us on this journey as we shine a light on the struggles and seek justice for those affected by CPS intervention. Together, let us raise awareness and work towards creating a better future for our children and families. Tune in to CPS Victims Hunting Justice and stand with us in the fight for a fair and